How's it going, everyone? What is certainly gonna end up being one of the biggest gaming stories of the year, the Ubisoft saga is even more insane than we had initially thought. So yesterday we talked all about the game cancellations and game delays. Obviously, it was, I don't want to say highlighted, but the most important element of this all was Prince of Persia: Sands of Time, the remake, being canceled. Bear in mind, Prince of Persia: The Sands of Time remake kicked off development in the year 2018. It was unveiled in 2020, and then a few years after its unveiling, they went back to the drawing board. A different studio took over in terms of the remake, and it was very, very close to completion. And there was a date that was floating around of January 16th, and Tom Henderson has reiterated that was the plan for the game, so we'll talk about that. And we have big updates on the Assassin's Creed Black Flag remake, so we'll talk about that as well. The Black Flag remake, let's actually just start with that. Black Flag, the remake, was supposed to release on March the 19th. Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag Resynced is, I believe, the title of the game. Maybe Black Flag Resynced, maybe they'll drop the 4. But I digress. It's the AC4 remake, and it has been delayed from fiscal year 26 into fiscal year 27. Now, I've seen it thrown around, oh, the game has been delayed for a year. The game has been delayed for up to a year. Bear in mind that when the game was supposed to come out March 19th, that would put it in the fiscal year of 2026, which would end on March the 31st. Now it's been swung over to the next fiscal year. It could literally be a 6-week delay. I doubt it's a 6-week delay. I think it'll end up being like a 6-month delay, and it'll come out in September, October, around that range. Maybe sometime in the summer. I think the summer would actually make a lot of sense, so you would get some lead time on some of the other big games coming out. You would definitely stay away from GTA, etc., etc. But AC Black Flag Resynced has been delayed, and again, the game was supposed to drop on March 19th as a digital-only release. That is so unfortunate. Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion, that remake or remaster also was a digital-only release, and do keep in mind that a lot of the Ubisoft games, now when they ship on disc, you do have to do a download. Assassin's Creed Shadows, Star Wars Outlaws, those games do require a installation, or a download, I should say, for the game to operate well, and for you to boot the game, etc., etc. Whenever a studio is pushing, that they'll do physical games, but it requires a download when you put it in your console, those are the studios and the publishers that you gotta look at and be like, they've got one foot out the door, and you see more and more of their games go the digital-only route. And Black Flag Remake, unfortunately, was one of those games that did make sense, in the sense that Bethesda's another publisher that does go the route of, oh, you need a download when you buy these games, and then look at what happened with Oblivion. Now, Oblivion did ultimately get a physical release. That physical release still required a download, and I still prefer, I know some people think the physical releases that are like game key cards, or that they require a download, are completely worthless. Obviously, I would like the game to be in a playable state on disc. I think everybody would. However, in terms of physical gaming, I still prefer having a physical copy that requires a download over not having a physical copy whatsoever. First of all, it's more options, and that's not a bad thing. Second of all, requiring a download doesn't mean you can't trade the game to a friend. You can't loan the game to a friend, whereas if you buy the game digitally, it's stuck into your account. So I do still prefer physical copies that require a download over digital only as the option, but I digress. I don't know if this shift is going to lead the game to have a physical release. I would doubt that, but that delay seems to be something that was lining up with bugs, technical issues, things of that nature, and it has ultimately been delayed. Now, Prince of Persia is the one that it's insane. The original plan for Prince of Persia, as reported in November, was to release on January 16th, as I've said for the past few weeks on the pod. I couldn't get updated info because of the Ubisoft breaches, which are still ongoing, but probably a bigger story. I never once said it would shadow drop. That was a story made up by aggregators who literally created a fake website based on that rumor. Found out today it was pushed to late March and December for further polishing. My fault for not following up at that time, and can today. The thing is, if it was about to come out, you already invested 7 years into the development of the game. Again, it went back to the drawing board, but if it was this close, how much would you have to push to just get the game out? I know at some point you have to step away from the sunk cost fallacy, I should say, but Beyond Good and Evil 2 is still in fact in development. Beyond Good and Evil 2 has been in development for literally before some people on the internet talking about video games were born. Alright, maybe that's a little bit of a stretch, but you get the idea. Beyond Good and Evil 2 somehow avoids all of this, but Prince of Persia: The Sands of Time remake, which was damn near close to being released, at least you would think, if it was scheduled for January, then it got pushed to March, how much more pushing was it gonna need? Was it gonna need another 6 months? What was the issue with that if it was gonna come out 6 months later? Maybe at the point of it getting pushed into the next fiscal year, and maybe they viewed the game as something that would be a commercial disappointment and you didn't want to tie that into the following fiscal year. I honestly don't know, and they have more confidence in Assassin's Creed 4 remake, obviously, but that is the most insane element to me of all of this, that Prince of Persia: The Sands of Time remake was so close to being released, and now it's just gone. 8 years they spent developing this game. 8 years of resources and 7-8 years of resources invested into this game, and now it's just gone with the wind at the tail end of its development cycle. And it's insane. I saw somebody bring this up on social media when the announcement came on X that the game was canceled by the official Prince of Persia Twitter account, that it was just like, dude, now we're canceling games that the original developers created and they couldn't finish that game. Think about that for a second and how insane that is. And Sands of Time is such an iconic game, and based on Prince of Persia's track record over the last few years, that might be it for Prince of Persia. What is there left of POP if Lost Crown was a commercial flop, which it was, even as much as I liked Lost Crown, and I know not everybody liked that game, but I thought it was a pretty good game. It had the worst promotion damn near of all time, but in a world where Concord exists, like, I don't know about saying all that, but it had very, very bad promotion, and given that, you know, Prince of Persia was an existing IP and a name IP, and they just botched the promotion of that game that hard from right out the gate, you know, that's the one that upsets me the more. But Lost Crown is a commercial flop, and then also, now Sands of Time remake is canceled. I think that's it for Prince of Persia. Unless they spin the IP, they sell the IP or something like that, I think it's over for Prince of Persia, at least for the foreseeable future. And that's not really a hot take. At the very best scenario, a new Prince of Persia game gets greenlit tomorrow and it takes 84 years in development, and then it'll probably be canceled again. I just don't think Ubisoft views Prince of Persia as a franchise that's gonna have legs to it, and it's not one of those franchises that generally is going to be viewed as something you can monetize in the long term. Sands of Time would come out and then it would be it. It would be over. Like, you're not going to monetize that game in terms of microtransactions. Maybe the Black Flag remake, you will monetize that with some microtransactions, especially with the shift in gameplay and whatnot, but Prince of Persia, you're really not going to do that, and you would have to redesign Prince of Persia at a fundamental level to monetize that game with microtransactions and things like that, and that's what I think Ubisoft is going to be focused with. They're going to be focused on games like The Division, Rainbow Six Siege, live service games, or Assassin's Creed-esque games where they can monetize them in the long term. But man, what a disaster for Prince of Persia. That is the one IP that is so upsetting. And also, how is Beyond Good and Evil 2 still in development? What is going on here? Like, is the sunk cost fallacy going that hard right now where that game is just avoiding cancellation? Like, don't get me wrong, I want that game to come out. Beyond Good and Evil 1 is absolutely beloved, but how long has that game been in development? And that's another game that went to the drawing board after its initial period in development, but it went back to the drawing board in like 2018. It's been 8 years since that fact, and it's still in development. Do they have that high of hopes? Beyond Good and Evil was a cult classic back in the day. It wasn't this game that was a commercial juggernaut. Are they gonna do they have this feeling that Beyond Good and Evil 2 is something that they can monetize with a lot of microtransactions and things of that nature? I really am bewildered by that, but let me know all of your thoughts in the comment section down below. This is just one of the craziest stories that we're gonna cover in a while, but man, 2026 might have a lot of insanity attached to it. That'll do it for me. Your thoughts down below. As always, sound off there. Thank you for watching, and goodbye. Hey guys, we hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, make sure to hit the subscribe button, and if you're already subscribed, do us a favor and hit the bell icon. This way you'll be notified whenever we post a new video. That's the best way to keep up with all of our uploads, and we usually try to upload 2 videos a day. And with the bell icon hit, you'll be notified whenever we do upload a video. As always, thanks for watching.